Ravelot, July the 26th, 1944, crew lost. Flyer, August the 13th, 1944, 78 men lost. Harder, August the 24th, 1944, crew lost. Seawolf, October the 3rd, 1944, crew lost. Darter, October the 24th, 1944, crew rescued. Shark 2, October the 24th, 1944, crew lost. Tang, October the 25th, 1944, 78 men lost.
Following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the submarine fighting force was one of only 2 naval arms which remained to take the offensive. Within days of the attack, the submarine took the war directly to the shores of the Japanese Empire, slashing supply lines and cutting into invasion convoys. From the end of 1941 to August of 1945, 52 United States submarines and 3,617 crewmen perished in the service of their country. For those who survived, the memories remain undimmed a half-century later.
We got caught off Cameron Bay after sinking one ship and damaging another. We had no periscopes. We had no radio. We couldn't steer. We took on 3,000 pounds of water in the control room alone. And the temperature inside the boat was between 120 and 130 degrees. It just was a mess. We were lucky to survive. But we did survive, which just goes to show you that submarine people are of a particular character, and we were taught and we were trained to do this. And that's the reason why we're here this weekend, because we survived. There were 3,600 other people who did not.
The Wall of Honor Executive Committee was assembled in early 1993 by Bob Moore, its chairman, with the sole intention of building a submarine memorial in Groton, Connecticut. The 10 black panels of highly polished granite underwent many months of preparation, polishing, and engraving. The result of the committee's efforts is a special place, the Wall of Honor, the National Submarine Memorial East, a final resting place and quiet sanctuary where fallen heroes and shipmates can be honored and remembered, now and for all eternity. From all over the country, they arrived at the Nautilus Memorial and Submarine Museum in Groton to begin the Wall of Honor dedication weekend. Submarine veterans and their families, and the next of kin of those who gave their lives. For veterans, it would be a bittersweet reunion. For those who had lost sons, brothers, husbands, and fathers, it was a chance to meet the men who knew and served with their loved ones. Soon after their arrival, weekend guests were shuttled to the Naval Submarine Base, where they enjoyed a tour of some popular points of interest. The first stop was the USS Dallas. For many family members, it was the first time they had ever set foot on a submarine. Veterans found that simply being on board the Dallas brought back a flood of memories from their days of active service. The submarine trainer was a favorite tour attraction, especially for children, as it simulated the physical sensations associated with a submarine's diving and surfacing. The Chapel on the Thames was the final stop on the tour and provided next of kin with a place for quiet reflection. 52 pews, each one named for a lost submarine. For those who had lost a loved one, sitting in the pew was a fitting way to remember and pay tribute. Next of kin and veterans came together Friday evening over refreshments and music to reminisce about the men of the silent service.
We have one other fella that was on the boat with us that I know is personally. He was one of my strikers, and he went down with the bonefish up in the Sea of Japan, next to the last boat that was lost during the war. And that was Olson. I hope to see his family if anybody's here.
He joined the Navy 6 months after I did, 1936, and then after I made 3rd class, we both made 3rd class same time, and he went to Panama and I went on the Pickerel, and my brother-in-law was on the Pickerel, but we didn't know each other. We weren't either one married at that time, and he ended up with my brother on the Capeland, and the Capeland was lost on the 2nd War Patrol. So I never did see him after we got, after the first year in the Navy. Never did see him again.
All of the submarine sailors that were lost in World War II are on eternal patrol. We don't say that they're gone. They just are on eternal patrol. And someday we will all be there with them. And that's what we believe.
It took a great, great committee to do this. And I picked this committee. And they were tested, but they survived. They went through it. And tomorrow you see the wall, you'll know the many hours that we put in planning and meetings and so forth. It was a labor of love. And that's all I can say about it. I wanted to do it for my shipmates who went down in World War II and for the next of kin. That's what it's all about.
I'm 56 years old, and I can tell you to the day, my mother had a store, and the grocery store was never closed. And I came home from school, and the store was closed, and everything was dark, and I knew something was up. And I went in the back, and my mother, I can tell you to this day, was sitting in the kitchen holding the telegram, the shades, because in those days when a death occurred, the shades were pulled, the light was dim, and she just was sitting there holding it. You know, I still can remember that. I can't get, I never forgot that there. So, you know, and these are all my brothers and sisters here. We all came up, and, you know, we're really enjoying the weekend. We're looking forward to tomorrow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
As the shipmates assemble, the ceremony unfolds. They are here to pay tribute to men. On eternal patrol, having made that last dive, remembering them as they were then. The flags are dipped as a bell does toll. Lost boats are called by name. With heads bowed low, each man praying alone, though silent, their thoughts are the same. It could have been me, oftentimes it's been said. We were saddened to lose you, good friend. But we all knew too well that war is hell and some lives had to come to an end.
I now convene the dedication ceremony of the National Submarine Memorial Wall of Honor East. Please rise.
Here at this Wall of Honor, we can hear a message from the past. We can make a difference, this wall says. We can find the courage and the strength to fight and beat the odds. We have done it in the past. This Wall of Honor bears testimony to that fact.
At this time, I'd like to ask all the next of kin and family members of our fallen shipmates whose names are on the wall, will you please rise and be recognized?
It's hard for me to properly put this ceremony today in context. I was out there almost 3.5 years of World War II. That's a privilege I felt. The horseback estimate when we went to, the few times we got to go to rest and recreation camp at Camp Dealey on Guam and so forth, that the average run of a World War II submarine guy was about 5 runs. That's just what we call the horseback estimate. The General Jacksons of the world, the Jeb Stuarts of the Confederate Cavalry. The horseback estimate is about 5 runs. Then you had better get off the boats because you might not make the 6th one and come home. I had the privilege of making 11. I don't still know what happened. I know some guys that made 13. I guess because I was born in 1913, that was a lucky number. It's always been lucky for me up to now. Look out. Wait a minute. Seagulls, wait a minute, seagulls up here. That's right. Getting back to be more serious, I feel that this Wall of Honor also epitomizes the sacrifices of many people in our modern attack Navy, like the Scorpion, like Thresher. I lost a lot of good friends in both ships. Their ghosts are with us. We submarine guys know, we really know, that each one of us stands on the shoulders of those who come before us. In closing, I'd like to say a small poem that Rudyard Kipling wrote for the chaps and the women of the Royal Army and the Royal Navy, the Royal Air Force, when it came in. It's called Lest We Forget. It's not the name, but I think of it as that. One could call it the Requiem. This is my final words. I have 1 minute to go, gentlemen. Yes, Virginia. Thank you for waking up. I appreciate it. Thank you. The tumult and the shouting dies. The captains and the kings depart. Strong stand thine ancient sacrifice, and humble and a contrite heart. Lord, God of hosts, be with us yet. Lest we forget. Lest we forget. God bless. Thank you.
World War II has been well documented. Stories, books, movies. But the full story of the submarine service has never been told. Nor can it be. Can gut-wrenching fear be recorded by a camera? Can interminable fatigue and discomfort that goes on for days and weeks on end? And what about dedication to duty? And that deep fraternal bond that was forged only among men who took our submarines to war? We know they can't. And this was the story of the submarine service. To understand it, you had to be a part of it. You had to be there. Right after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, many of our Navy men were left with a feeling of deep personal loss. For several days after that attack, a heavy pall of gray smoke hung like fog, low, all across the harbor and over the Navy shipyard. And as we sailed slowly past Battleship Row, the West Virginia, California, Maryland, the Pennsylvania, the Tennessee, many others, all heavily damaged, several still burning with smoke belching from their bowels. The men just stood at the rail. Most did not speak. These were not ships that belonged to some remote population back in the States. Many of the men felt, this is my Navy, and these are my ships, and the Japanese have destroyed them. It left a sense of fury which for some has never entirely abated. And then the war progressed. One by one, 52 of our submarines were sent to the bottom. And now the loss became even more personal. And we said, those were my shipmates. And that is the story that must be told. It's a story of great suffering, a story of tremendous sacrifice, a story of heroic achievement. And we who survived the ordeal of that war now feel duty-bound to give meaning to that survival by being faithful to the memory of those men who died. To that end, Bob Moore and his crew have created the beautiful memorial which sits here before us today. It sits here majestically among the ghosts of 3,617 good men who gave their lives on submarines and whose names are engraved on its faces. It sits here in silent eloquence, and it speaks with a voice that will be heard forever. The final curtain on the play has fallen, and all that remains is for those of us who were left to carry on, to close the show. But for us, there'll always be the memory of the glory and the triumph and the tragedy that was part of the play. And if someday some stranger should ask, what was it like living, going through an attack on that submarine you were on? There's only one answer we can give. You had to be a part of it. You had to be there.
Gentlemen, unveil the Wall of Honor.
Their final resting places are known only to the Almighty. Their families, friends, living shipmates, and future generations should know they will always be remembered. Walk softly, stranger. You stand on hallowed ground.
Trout, February the 29th, 1944, crew lost. Tullabee, March the 26th, 1944, 79 men lost. Gudgeon, April the 7th, 1944, crew lost. Heron, June the 1st, 1944, crew lost. Golette, June the 14th, 1944, crew lost.
touch the name. I think that means a lot. I've seen so much emotion, you know, of family, brothers and sisters and all that, of the people that went down, the guys that went down, and just being able, that just means something to be able to touch their name.
There still was always this hope of, I think maybe he just might come back. And I think this service here this time is something that I know he's not coming back. I know where he is, because he was a Christian young man. And I know where he is, but it's kind of put it to rest for me.
You feel like you lost something, you can't get it back. It is a very special day, it is. We traveled 1,500 miles by car to be here. I'm sorry I'm getting emotional about it, but it's a great event. We're very happy that they're doing something for the people that probably weren't remembered like they should have been.
You know, there wasn't any real place that they could say that they were buried in. All these fellows that were killed on the submarines, they were all lost at sea. But now at least there's a place where you can come and say, you know, this is really their place.
That afternoon, guests enjoyed a picnic at the Naval Submarine Base. It was an occasion to meet more people, to share more memories, to have a good time.
Well, all through family's history, I've been dealing a lot with submarines, silencers and everything, a lot of different submarine bases. Dad's really interested in this because he's been in for 23 years. Like to talk to the veterans here, a lot of good stories to hear about, different things with my dad talking. And just basically just their memory of all these wonderful people who went to war and served the country.
Saturday's picnic was also an occasion to reflect on the events and the emotion of the dedication ceremony.
This weekend, you know, it's a very, I don't think anybody can realize how much ceremonies mean or how hollow it is without ceremony. We never had a body to bury. We had a memorial service a long time ago, but this is sort of like a good closure on something that needed closing after 50 years. And when I got the letter from the committee saying, your brother's name, Frank Robert Nystrom, will be on the Wall of Honor, that really touched me a lot to know that other people remember him too.
It means everything. I think it's about time they had it, and I'm glad they have, and I'm glad I got here. And it's remarkable, really. You want to cry, but you don't. You want to laugh sometimes. Think of the good part. It's about all you can do.
Being that his sub was never found, and we don't really know what happened to it. They said it was a probable mine, and then someone else was saying there are rumors that it was shot at by a Japanese boat. At least we know he's got a resting place. There's something like we go to a cemetery and visit other relatives. My brother's name is John Lewis Ramond after him, and he died. And we can go there and visit his grave, but we can't visit my uncle, so now there's a place that we can.
I want to welcome you to our beautiful sanctuary under the heavens. I have dreamed and thought about this moment for years. The concept of the memorial wall at this site is to meditate reflect on our lives, and to pray has been my goal from the beginning. To be here with our lost shipmates.
Will you bow your heads for the invocation? Almighty God, it is said, those who fought for it, for them freedom has a taste the protected will never know. This morning, those who know the taste of freedom gather on this holy ground to honor the gallant U.S. submariners on eternal patrol. We ask that our worship would be truly acceptable in your sight.
Good morning. It is my pleasure and my honor to read from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8. These special words embody all the human endeavors and human emotions that we behold, not the least of which is hope for the future. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot. A time to kill, yet a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh. A time to mourn, yet a time to dance. A time to scatter stones, a time to gather them together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain. A time to search, a time to give up. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, a time to mend. A time to be silent, yet a time to speak. A time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and peace.
We can make a difference. These heroes tell us. We can make a difference. This wall tells us. In the Bible and Psalms we read, they who go down to the sea in ships see the wonders of the Lord. Those of us here know that they who go down to the sea in ships are sometimes themselves the wonders of the Lord. These men touched the world. These men, their bravery, their courage, their sacrifice touched our lives, touched our world. And so we must tell their story forever. And this would be a place among all the other things that happens that I hope will have events that tell the stories little by little, again and again.
It's a cap of 50 years of these men who've been forgotten. And now they've been recovered and their families can see they're remembered. Each name on the wall, many of my classmates, just to rub my finger on the name meant so much.
We should never allow the lives of these people who were lost to bring us down to a point where they're not recognized for what it means. It doesn't mean that their lives were lost in vain. It means that their lives were lost in a way that will allow us to have the freedoms for the future. And I think if we fail to remember that, and if we fail to understand that we who remain behind must live a life of support and of enthusiasm, of enjoyment, but also of learning from the contributions that these people meant to us, then I think we'll get a lot more out of it. And that's why I would certainly encourage that it be a time of a solemn appreciation for those that went before us, but also a time of joy about what it was that they contributed and what we can learn from them for the future.
We never forgot you. We always remember the good times as well as the bad. This is the reason we have built this wall, a memorial stone that you never had. When at this memorial we gather to pay honor and tribute to you, we can look at the wall and see its name in this resting place long overdue.